All right, today, hopefully I'm gonna convince you to eat less protein, because overeating protein could be destroying your energy. A lot of people don't realize how harmful it is to hop on, an animal-based diet. You're eating the animal-based diet, but you're overeating, the beef, the eggs, the meat in general, the dairy, protein powders maybe. All of that extra protein is harming you, and that's the reason the animal-based diet is not working for you. This used to be me. I would eat 10 eggs in one sitting, a pound of ground beef in one sitting. I didn't realize that too much protein is basically extremely harmful. Now, the first main point I want to make is that protein synthesis and all the benefits of protein max out a lot lower than you think. Like, if I asked you, how much protein do you optimally need? Like what's the perfect amount of protein to eat? You might say, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. You're just repeating the nonsense you've heard on the internet from people like Paul Saladino. Even Paul Saladino says that shit, bro. You might say, it's actually 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight. That's what the studies actually say. You're also wrong, because what the studies really say is that protein synthesis maxes out, like completely maxes out. And this is like a safety net too. Like, they added, a standard deviation to this number. So it even the actual number is probably even less. But what they said was 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass. Lean mass. That's very different from 0.8 grams of protein per pound of body weight, and it's very different from the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. If you took me, I weigh 170 pounds, and you told me, eat 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, I'm gonna eat 170 grams of protein. On the other hand, if you take the actually, the correct number, 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass, I'm gonna be eating 120 grams of protein, because I only have maybe like 150 grams or 150 pounds of lean mass. So 120 grams of protein is going to be my optimal level. That's where I'm going to max out all the benefits of protein. There is no way that you have only eaten 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass, on this diet. You're probably eating way, way more, at least 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. And that's an issue. That's an issue. Because when you eat more than 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass, like, you might say, there's no harm in overdoing it, right? Wrong. If you eat more protein, your body converts that protein to fuel, especially if you're not eating enough carbs, but we'll talk about that in a second. Your body converts the excess protein you use. If you eat a meal with 50 grams of protein, the myth that you need, that protein synthesis maxes out at 30 grams of protein per meal. People like to hate on that, but it's kind of true, because if you eat 50 grams of protein in a meal and only 30 grams of carbs, your body's going to convert some of that protein to fuel, to glucose. It's gluconeogenesis. This is what carnivores have to do when they eat, no carbs. Their body converts the protein they use into fuel for their brain. So they're basically increasing their stress hormones, because this is a very stressful process for your body. It's basically in starvation. If it has to convert protein to glucose, it is starving. So it's going to be a stressful process. Your cortisol is going to go up. Your adrenaline, things like that, your stress hormones in general are going up, which decreases your thyroid function and your testosterone. It's going to be suboptimal. So you have to limit protein. You have to limit protein. Otherwise, you're going to kind of feel like shit. That's why when you eat, 10 eggs in a meal, I would eat 10 eggs in a meal, and then I'd feel like sluggish and like low energy, but also kind of like, jittery. That was stress hormones. That was my body converting the egregious amount of protein I just ate and the egregious amount of fat that was basically making me insulin resistant into fuel, and my stress hormones were through the roof. So don't listen to the Paul Saladino people, the Nathan Sages, any of the animal-based people. I can guarantee you are high protein, because they're stupid as shit. All right. So the second thing you have to do, you have your protein at 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass. And you can go even lower than that, but don't go higher, okay? 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass. What do you do about the other macros if you want high energy? Now, The key is a 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio. So this is protein, this is carbs, 2-to-1. 2-to-1. Always at least twice as many carbs as protein in every meal you eat and in your total macros for the day. This, more than anything else, has made a difference in how I feel. I'm telling you right now, you lower protein to that level, and then you shoot for 300 grams of carbs a day. If I'm eating 130, 140 grams of protein a day, I'm hitting that 300 grams of carbs a day. Because even if you can go higher than that 2-to-1 ratio, even better. But basically, this is gonna force your brain and force your body to use the carbs for fuel, because it's not getting that fuel from the protein you're eating. It's getting plenty of glucose from the carbs. So you're gonna feel a lot better. Your body's gonna be basically running like a well-oiled machine. And when you have all that fuel, when you have clear insulin spikes, your cortisol is gonna be down, your stress hormones are gonna be down, your testosterone's gonna be up, your thyroid function's gonna be up. You're gonna feel so much better. You're gonna have way more energy, way more energy. I'm telling you right now. And it's honestly sad, because like naturally you would sort of, I was thinking about this, like if I didn't have any of the internet people on the the animal-based influencers telling me to eat 200 grams of protein, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, this is probably the macros that I would naturally gravitate towards. Like naturally I would eat way more carbs than protein, because I don't enjoy eating protein. Like I would force myself to eat those 10 eggs, to eat that pound of ground beef. Like I wasn't actually enjoying that, and I didn't actually want to eat that much protein, but I did want to eat a good amount of carbs. I probably naturally just want to eat like 30, 40 grams of protein in a meal. That's when I sort of get satiated. I don't want any more than that. It's not natural for us to eat that much protein. But I do want to eat, 80, 100 grams of carbs in a meal. I want to drink that, large glass of orange juice, have some blueberries with honey, some mango, some, honey straight out of the jar maybe. I want carbs, right? I want that 2-to-1 carb to protein ratio. It's a natural ratio, and that's why it works so well, is because we're meant to eat like that. You're giving your body basically a signal of abundance. Like you're not starving, there's carbs available, we don't have to rely on protein for fuel. And it works extremely well to make you feel fantastic. All right, so that's the macros. And of course, fat is going to depend on how fat you are. So if you're trying to lose body fat, lower your fat to maybe the 20% range in terms of your calories. And if you're very lean, increase it to 40%. But that's, separate video. Right now we're on, protein. And honestly, if you're eating a limited amount of protein per day, this is really the third point I want to make. Well, you've cut out the protein powders, right? You're not getting your protein from protein powders or from dairy. A lot of people get a lot of protein from, Greek yogurt, cheese, things like that. Suboptimal, because casein protein is going to be problematic for a lot of people anyways. Probably going to make you put on body fat, give you brain fog, some sort of issue that you might not even notice, but it's definitely suboptimal to be getting a lot of protein from dairy anyways, because you're going to be getting less nutrient density. If you're only eating 0.8 grams of protein per pound of lean mass, you have to make that protein count. And this is really one of the reasons I think people eat high protein on an animal-based diet, is because, they see that the nutrient-dense foods also are high in protein. So like, a ton of eggs is super nutrient dense, and it's also super high in protein. So like if you eat 60 grams of protein, you just ate a ton of more nutrients than if you ate like 30 grams of protein, right? So that's one of the reasons I think people eat high protein on this diet, is because it's basically a proxy, like a measurement for the amount of nutrients they eat in terms of their meat and their eggs. But if you include dairy, you're not getting much nutrient density. So what you have to do is you have to make that protein count and just focus on red meat, maybe some eggs. These are the protein sources. You don't have protein to spare on fucking, dairy, protein shakes. No, you don't need that anyways, but you do need your nutrients, right? So to hit your nutrients, to get as many, as much bang for your buck on this protein as possible, focus on the red meat and the eggs. I get basically all of my protein from steak and ground beef, and sometimes I'll have some chicken, not as nutrient dense, I know, but if I'm in a pinch, chicken's pretty cheap, and it's easy to add fat to, because I'm trying to dial in my fat intake right now. But Eggs as well. I gotta be adding in eggs, I think, instead of the chicken. But eggs and red meat are gonna be your most nutrient dense protein sources. So that should be basically all of your protein. All of your protein. Don't mess with the chicken, the dairy, the protein powders or anything like that. It's just not gonna be as nutrient dense. So that's my tip. All right. You're eating less protein, hopefully, because you realize less protein is genuinely gonna make you feel like shit. All right. It's gonna prevent your fat loss as well. Your metabolism's gonna slow down. Just please eat less protein and maximize your carb intake. That's what a mistake that I think basically almost everyone makes on this diet, because you have people like Paul Saladino saying 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. It's not necessary whatsoever. It's actually gonna hurt you. So lock in, eat less protein, increase the carbs. You'll feel a lot better.